And we're here today to show that we think one of the best ways to let the American people know how horrible Donald Trump's first 30 days have been is to bring those who have been affected, the victims of his malevolence, of his desire to give tax breaks to the billionaires and make Americans pay for it. And these Americans who we're bringing with us tonight are just a few of the millions of Americans who are going to pay for the horrible proposals that Donald Trump has put forward. He will address the nation before a joint session, and by now the American people know what to expect from the president: a deluge of mistruths and falsehoods. They expect Donald Trump to take credit for things he didn't do and blame others when it suits him. Whoa.
I hold this.
Yeah, that would be great. My dear little Emma. But what Donald Trump won't do, is incapable of doing, is being straight with the American people about the mess he's already created in his short time in office. I don't think we've ever seen a president do as much damage to a country in 30 days as Donald Trump has done. On day one, he promised a golden age. 1 month later, that promise seems like ancient history. If there's any gold to be found in the Trump agenda, it's fool's gold. All glitter, no value. Frankly, when he speaks tonight, what can he possibly say that the American people should take seriously? Donald Trump has done nothing to brag about tonight. It hasn't even been 50 days, and he's already made a huge mess of our country. Donald Trump said last summer, for instance, when I win, I'll bring prices immediately down, starting on day one. 1 month into Trump land, inflation has gone up. Donald Trump claimed the next economic boom will begin when he's elected president. But in 1 month of Trump, unemployment has gone up. Donald Trump said grocery prices will come tumbling down, but in 1 month, grocery prices have gone up. It keeps going. Housing costs up. Measles cases up. Vladimir Putin's influence up. So again, what could Donald Trump possibly brag about tonight? That he's made inflation worse? That he started a trade war with Mexico and Canada? That the stock market is anemic? That he's best buddies with Vladimir Putin, one of the most evil dictators on the face of the earth? Or that maybe he wants to brag that he wants to slash Medicaid and Medicare and Social Security while cutting taxes for billionaires. The only one remarkable thing about Donald Trump's second term is how quickly he's messed everything up. And who'll pay the price? Not him, not billionaires, but working class and middle class Americans. So, like all of my Democratic colleagues here, we've invited guests to the Capitol. I am going to hold this up. I'll just talk. You just hold this.
You want me to hold this?
Yes. Okay. I got this. This is Emma Larson. She's 12 years old. When she was 1, she was born with a deadly disease that affects thousands of infants every year. They gave her a year or 2 to live. But because of an NIH grant at Cold Spring Harbor Lab, this is Emma today. She's 12. She still needs a wheelchair, but she's in school. She has a 4.0 grade point average. She's going to parties and everything with her with her nice friends. I guess at 12 you're not so little anymore. And she's thriving because there was an NIH grant. The nerve of Donald Trump taking away those grants that gave Emma her life and her happiness to make some billionaire pay even less taxes. Just enraging. Okay, so that is one. I have a bunch of guests that Alyssa Elman. Listen to this lady. She served in the burn pits in Afghanistan and got toxic cancer. She went to work for the VA. She was fired last week. They didn't tell her where she could, how she was fired, why she was fired, what she did wrong, why she was superfluous or whatever Doge says. They just fired her after sacrificing for her country. How despicable. Again, why? Why was Alyssa fired? Tax cuts for the billionaires. We have a USDA worker, Tiffany Ramos, who helps our farms in upstate New York, fired with no notice. 2 New Yorkers, Jessica Martinez and Anna Medina, who are on Medicaid but worry they'd lose their health care. And to all of these people, it is no golden age. And finally, the last people I want to welcome, good catch, are Orna Nutra, mother of Omer Nutra, and Ruby Chen, father of Itai Chen. Both were tragically murdered by Hamas on October 7th. Hamas viciously never told the families about the fate of their loved ones. I met with both of these parents over and over again, and every time they wondered, is my child alive or dead? How vicious not to tell them that they had been murdered on October 7th. What they've endured is beyond comprehension. They'll be here. We're still working hard to bring all the rest of the living hostages home and the bodies of those who are dead home as well. It's now my pleasure to call on Amy Klobuchar, our messaging maven.
All right. Thanks, Chuck. All right. Thank you, Senator Schumer, and thank you to our Senate Democrats joining us up on the steps. From the very beginning, we have made clear that we are going to stand up for the American people. We're going to do it in the courts with Democratic attorney generals that are winning their cases. We're going to do it in Congress by holding them accountable. And we are going to do it with our constituents by our side. And you now see them turning out, and including some of the people whose pictures you see up here on the steps every single day. They are going to make the biggest difference. They are the story, not the politicians. They are the story. And later this afternoon, you're going to get to hear from some of them firsthand. I think we're doing something at 4 with some of the actual guests that are going to come up and tell their stories. Whether it is farmers hit by tariffs, like my guest, this is Gary, third-generation farmer in Minnesota. I thought it was interesting. I decided to use one of the photos of him speaking out because those farmers are not going to be quiet when these 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico hit. President Trump can say all he wants in tweets. He can say all he wants in social media posts, but this is going to hit hard for our farmers and ranchers across the country. You're going to hear from people like Senator Cantwell's guest, who is a cancer researcher that I got to talk to last night, who had clinical trials that are at risk, or Senator Gallego's guest, who is a veteran who relies on veterans' health care. These are real people that the administration is hurting with their chaos, with their tariffs, and with their Musk-led quest to shift $2 trillion from regular people to pay for $2 trillion in tax cuts for the rich. Americans who voted for the president didn't sign up for this. They wanted lower costs. What do they have instead? Ask the people in the egg aisle. Wholesale coffee prices up 23%. These are today's numbers. Lumber prices up 14%. Egg prices up 25% since the president took office. What is the State of the Union, we ask? Chaos is up, corruption is up, and costs are up for regular people. We are seeing cuts to Medicaid suggested in the House of Representatives, to cancer research, to public safety, to veterans, and just today to cut off the aid to Ukraine when the Ukrainians are standing up to a dictator in Vladimir Putin. These tariffs, they will amount to a tax on households, get this, more than $2,700 a year in a tax on households. One of my mentors in politics was Paul Wellstone, and he rode into this town in a green bus. No one thought he was going to ever win, and he had ridden that bus all over Minnesota to make the case that he was there for regular people. And one of the things I will use as my guide the rest of my time in politics is this. He once said, politics is about the improvement of people's lives. What the Trump administration is doing is not improving lives, it's hurting them, and we will stand up for the people of this country. And our guests who are pictured up here that you're going to meet through the day, they are the best ones to tell this story because they are living it. And with now, I'm honored to hand this over to one of our new colleagues, Senator Kim. Yeah, yeah, we're all- Okay.
Got it. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Senator Andy Kim, and I want to introduce you to Kevin Nunes, who you'll have a chance to be able to hear from later on today. Kevin Nunes, 37 years old, suffers from severe cerebral palsy, is using a wheelchair, requires Medicaid for his health care, for his caregivers, for essential services and equipment, for him to be able to live the life that he wants to live. And he deserves that. Every single person in America with disabilities deserves to have the care that they need to live a life of dignity and decency. We are the richest, most powerful country in the world. We should not have to toss to the side those that suffer from these challenges for no fault of their own. And I say that as a father of a polio survivor, someone who had disabilities over the course of his whole life. Now, Kevin is here because he is terrified about what's going to happen next for him. About how these cuts that we're going to see to Medicaid being proposed by Republicans in the building behind us are going to affect him and so many others around this country. In New Jersey, Kevin is speaking for 2 million people in our state who rely upon Medicaid for their health care. 1 in 3 kids in New Jersey on Medicaid. That this is something so necessary for their lives, for them to have the care that they need. And to what end is that being threatened? Be able to give the billionaires, the biggest corporations, tax cuts that Trump and Musk and others are trying to deliver for them. So we're going to have billionaires there in the State of the Union address tonight, waiting for their tax cuts. I want to have Kevin Nunes there, standing up, speaking out, giving voice for those that so often are being marginalized, so often being casted aside, and the people that are not expendable, but those that deserve to have their voice heard in the people's house. So that's why I'm going to be there, standing alongside Kevin, standing alongside the guests of so many of my colleagues to raise their voices of what's at stake in America right now, and to have the American people understand what is on the line and how their voice is necessary right now to be able to have the change that we deserve at this moment. Thank you.
Now, our great new Senator, Lisa Blunt Rochester from the great state of Delaware.
All right.
Thank you so much, Leader Schumer, and thank you so much to Senator Cory Booker for caring about Delaware. Thank you. Appreciate it. We're gathered here today on these steps to shine a bright light on what the Trump administration is trying to do in the dark. Right now, people are feeling the effects of only, 6 weeks or so in office. And my colleagues and I are standing here with photos of the people because this is really about power to the people and not power to the ultra rich or to those who have all of the privilege. People right now are afraid, they're fearful, they're concerned. And today, I get to bring a guest from the state of Delaware, my constituent, Laura Wallace from Middletown, Delaware. She was one of thousands of phone calls into my office as people were concerned about their personal data, as people were concerned about the services that would be provided to their aging parent or to their child. Let me tell you a little bit about Laura. This is Laura. Laura is a wife, she is a mother, and she is an advocate for parents, caregivers, and children across this country. She began her career as a toddler teacher, Those were her words, a toddler teacher. And she said that when she saw the amazement in the faces of young children learning, she found her calling. And she ultimately got her dream job at the Office of Early Childhood Development. You know, the place where we talk about Head Start, where we focus on childcare, which we learned during the pandemic was something we could not live without. She also focused on the birth 0 to 3 and sometimes birth to 5 program. And her job was actually to focus on efficiency, not like the Doge boys. Like, she actually was looking out for our taxpayer dollars. But as fate would have it, on Valentine's Day, the day that most of us receive hearts and cookies and things that show love, she actually received a heartless email telling her, quote, she was no longer fit to continue employment and that she would be terminated immediately. This came just days after her supervisor gave her an exemplary report of her work. Bottom line, Dr. Wallace is a well-respected expert in her field, and today she is unemployed. She is just one of the thousands of civil servants, of public servants that have been demonized and that have been, a chainsaw has been taken to them. I want to reiterate, Dr. Wallace's job was actually to save taxpayers money and make sure that our programs were run efficiently. To make matters worse, while she's trying to find a new job, her husband, a veteran, a disabled veteran, is also in a probationary status and is afraid for his job and is looking now. We know that 1/3 of our federal workforce are veterans, the people who fought and served this country, veterans. So now you have a mother, a father who are concerned about health insurance, who are concerned about security for them and their children. But for Laura, more importantly, she's concerned about the children and the families that she served. At this moment, there are now employees that are told to go home, and we are at risk. Our health is at risk from measles and avian flu. Our economy is at risk. Our safety is at risk, from flights in the air to our national security when nuclear scientists are told to go home and then asked to come back, but they can't find them. This is not efficiency. This is the Department of Inefficiency, is really what it should be called, because this is not efficient and it is also heartless. So tonight, you will hear from the president, but you can make no mistake that while the Trump administration is focused on having billionaires win and families lose, we as Senate Democrats are fighting for families, fighting for our constituents. And I would end with this. Our Senator Cory Booker said a line that stuck with me, and I hope I quote you right. He said that the power of the people is more important than the people in power. We saved the Affordable Care Act because people stood up, the faces that you see behind us. And so in this moment, while we are here on these steps, we want you to know we're fighting for you. We want you to know that this is about the power of the people and that we will not go back. We will not turn back. We're going to continue to march forward. Stay with us, the power of the people.
Right. Go Delaware.
So 2 quick more things. As Lisa was talking, it's not the Department of Efficiency, it's the Department of Cruelty. Because what they've done here is just cruel, as you've heard from story after story. And second, one thing all of our citizenry in our states has in common, they're all going to pay a lot more because of Trump's tariffs. They're all going to pay a lot more Trump's tariffs, $2,000 average per family because of the tariffs he put in. So forget that bull about lowering costs from day one. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.